Once you have finished creating your formative and are ready to assign it to your students, click on the Assign tab. You can now select your classes you wish to assign to, or assign to guest students. Guest students are temporary single-use accounts and are not recommended for your regular students. To ensure that you are able to monitor their progress over time, by clicking on the person icon next to the classes, you can also quickly add students to your class from the Assign panel. Once you have selected your classes to assign to, you'll see multiple options appear. By toggling on Teacher Pace mode, the teacher controls the progression of the formative and students can't proceed to the next question unless you click Next. By clicking on Adjust Settings Optional, you'll see a variety of assigning options so you can tailor the format of the formative to match your instructional activity or assessment style. By toggling on Display each item as a separate page, your formative will be presented to students as one page per question or content item, and they click Next to proceed. By toggling on Restrict to Individual Students, you can choose select students in a class you'd like to assign the formative to. Scheduling open and close times allows you to set a window of access for your students to respond to the formative. Time limits will only allow students to work on the formative for a designated period of time. Once students enter the formative, the timer starts and does not stop until they run out of time, even if they navigate away from the formative on their devices. After a student submits a formative, you can choose for it to react in a few different ways. Either allow edits for them to continue to work on the formative even after clicking Submit, make it hidden so the formative disappears from their student dashboards, or keep the submitted formative visible on their dashboards but no edits are allowed after submission. When returning scores instantly, students will see a color-coded reaction when answering auto-graded questions, allowing them to track their progress and catch mistakes in real time. If you choose to not show scores, students will progress through the formative without indication of whether their responses are correct or not. You can also return correct answers for students on questions with a set answer key. You can choose to return correct answers after students submit, don't show the answers at all, or when the formative has closed. You can also choose to randomize the question order in the formative, to shuffle all questions for each student. The pinned instructions block, though, will stay pinned to the beginning of the formative. The final assign tool is the Accommodations Bar. If any universal student accommodations apply on the formative, you'll see a count of how many students are receiving an accommodation. To get a closer look at the accommodations applied, click on the bar to unfurl the list to see which accommodations are being given and to which students. If a student needs an accommodation removed or modified for the formative, click on the pencil. You can now either turn off or change the accommodation. This will only modify the accommodation for this formative. Finally, you can click Assign to assign your formative to your students. If you are assigning to a Google Classroom synced class, by clicking Assign and Post to Google Classroom, a post will appear in your class stream, notifying students that they have a formative to complete. Once you have assigned your formative, the View Responses screen will display the join instructions. This link can be shared with students to access the formative, or if you have assigned to guest students, they can enter the join code at formative.com/join to respond to the formative.